you paint this extraordinary mural detailing every second of the Justin Verlander acquisition. The story alone is worth buying it. Astroball. The two details that brought the biggest smiles to my face were, number one, the day of the deal. Luhnow's got to speak to his nephew's little league team, which happened to be on the field where they shot the original Bad News Bears. Now, I'm sure the irony isn't lost on you or anybody that the Astros were the Bad News Bears when he took over.
That's right.
And also the Bad News Bears fans will remember that in the sequel, they won the big game in the Astrodome.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool about it. And then number two, which this was straight out of like a 1940s Capra movie, was a scene where Justin Verlander and Kate Upton were racing down the stairs of their Detroit high-rise in their pajamas. How in the world did we get there? Because I love this.
You know, as I was writing this chapter, I wasn't thinking about the Bad News Bears so much as the ending sequence of another movie, which is Goodfellas. You remember when Ray Liotta as Henry Hill is like driving around frantically as like helicopters are hovering over him and the music's getting louder and louder and there's like this deep like bass line going on. That's what I was thinking as I wrote this kind of tick-tock of how the Astros got to the place where they had 2 seconds left for Justin Verlander to sign his waiving of his no trade clause and go to Houston. Because that's when it happened. It happened at 11:59 and 58 seconds Eastern. And the deadline was midnight. So that's how close they came to having this fall through. And I mean, as we saw what happened next, that's kind of how close that they came to perhaps not having won this championship. Because it is hard to imagine that they would have if they hadn't made this trade for Verlander.
And the story is that, you know, they've got to get to the Detroit executive that has the paperwork on the no trade clause because they got to sign off on that.
That's right. Yeah. Avila, the GM of the Tigers, in the eventuality or in the case that they did come to terms with the Astros on a trade, he knew that Verlander had to sign off on it. So he actually, you know, talk about Goodfellas. He had 2 of his executives stake out Verlander's apartment building, just sitting outside in their car with the necessary documents in their hands so that if the trigger was pulled, they could immediately rush it in there, get Verlander's signature. And I think they actually took an iPhone photo of the document and sent it into the Major League Baseball offices.
And the reason they took the stairs was because they were scared that the elevator wasn't going to work.
That's right. Can you imagine if like a faulty elevator somewhere in Detroit had scuffled this Justin Verlander trade? That would have been, you know, it's really everything had to certainly fall into line to get this to happen.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.